And happy you all are here. I'm sorry we're facing, our backs are facing to you, so not much I can do about it, but we know you're here. So but thanks to those of you on the line. So I'll look to Mike Alley today, actually. Do the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call them to order and Mike Allen, of course, I'm present. Dennis Bland. Present. Kathy Paveo. Dr. Casanova will be joining us later virtually. Judge Fisher. Here. Samantha Fleischer.
Here.
Larry Gartoni.
Here.
I see you out there. Molly Hitchell.
Ken Kramer, are you on yet?
Not yet. He'll join virtually later as well.
I think he's going to be joining us later virtually as well. And then Dan Peterson.
I'm here.
So based upon that, we do indeed have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you. If everyone now would rise, please, we'll do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Especially on this 250th anniversary of our founding. Let's see, now we need to approve the agenda, so I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. A second. Thank you, Dennis. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those same, all right. And then we also need to approve our minutes from the last meeting, so from the April 2026 meeting.
So
So
moved.
entertain a motion for approval there. So thank you. Any second?
Second.
Any comments, corrections, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. All right, wonderful. We'll head into the meeting here, but I did want to, again, welcome everyone on this beautiful day in May. And of course, May is the greatest spectacle in racing here in Indiana, and very exciting to be part of this month. And I know people are probably heading out to the track at various times, but it's also such a wonderful time for higher education as our institutions celebrate another completion of the year, and most importantly, the graduation of some great graduates that are entering the world post-graduation. So we want to celebrate the universities and our partners here, but we also want to celebrate the graduates. So number one, congratulations to all the 2026 graduates on our behalf, and in particular, our own, very own Samantha Fleischer, who graduated magna cum laude from the You've been such a great student trustee, and we've been so happy to have you part of this group. And this is your last meeting, but we hope you'll stay in touch, come back, and come to these issues fun. So you want to. USI is also happens to be the host for us today, so want to look forward to their presentation later, and thank USI for being our host. I did want to raise the attention, and everybody want to welcome President C. Bridges, who's here. So we appreciate you being here with your team, and thank you again for all you're doing. I know you're a few months into your new role, and from our discussion, sounds like you're really enjoying it. So
Love it every day. Like 1,649 lives were changed last week.
here we go.
So, yes, fantastic. I look forward to you hearing our presentation.
We look forward to kind of the teams here in just a little bit. So thanks for being here. With that, we'll turn it over to Commissioner Jennifer for her remarks.
All right, excellent. Are we able to pull presentation up? Allison. So right out of the gate, we want to thank, and I think it jumped forward, Allison, I probably did that. Hold on, I'm so sorry. That's all right. right out of the gate, we want to thank and celebrate a few people. And then we'll have Brooke Kyle do a presentation for us, an update. So once we get our slide deck and we can actually show you who we're celebrating. There we go. There we go. So the first one, Dan already mentioned, but Samantha, I've known you for a short bit and you have just been fantastic, in the, comments that you make during the meeting. But I think your thoughtfulness, even behind the scenes, that everyone in this room, might not see when we're on phone calls or when you reach out, sharing your student wisdom, you have absolutely added to decisions that this commission has made and the impact for many students across Indiana. So huge thank you. And I want to pass it to Mike Alley, who is going to specifically read something.
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure to recognize you, Samantha, for your great effort. And the State of Indiana Commission for Higher Education is offering a resolution honoring you, Samantha Fleischaker. Whereas Samantha served with distinction on the Indiana Commission for Higher Education since her appointment in 2024 to represent the Student Commission member. And whereas she successfully completed her Bachelor of Arts, Political Science and Philosophy with a pre-law minor at the University of Southern Indiana during her tenure on the commission. And whereas Samantha honorably represented the University of Southern Indiana by being the first student commissioner from the institution since 2002. And whereas she has brought valuable insights, fiscal stewardship into the work of the Budget and Productivity Committee since joining in 2024, which I'm particularly grateful for. And whereas she has offered unwavering commitment to serving as a voice for the needs of Hoosier students with an emphasis on increasing student outcomes, alignment to Indiana's workforce, and making college affordable to all students. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Indiana Commission for Higher Education expresses its deep appreciation to Samantha Fleischaker for her 2 years of service to the state of Indiana on behalf of higher education and her continued advocacy for student success. Congratulations, Samantha.
Wanted to say thank you so much.
Pull your mic.
I just wanted to say thank you so much to the commission, to former Commissioner Lowry, Commissioner Jenner, and for the staff for always taking the time to respond to my emails, to pick up my calls, to help me when I'm in traffic. But most importantly, I wanted to say thank you to my university. I've loved being Sprinkle. I love being a Hoosier. As you may see on the slide, I'm planning to continue working for the city of Evansville as an outreach and education coordinator. And I could not do this without the support and mentorship of the commission. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I really appreciate it and love my time.
Yes, I would ask for a motion to approve that resolution.
Thank you. Yes, so moved. Second. There we go. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I will not even ask if there's any opposition. Yes, sir.
Next person that we want to honor, and Josh, if you could come up here so we can really. Josh, I texted Josh and I said, so I'm sure you missed this already. Here, come on, right up here, right up here. I know. Josh has been, I'd say, a behind the scenes puppet master, call it whatever you want. Since May of 2014, when he started at the commission, and you can see the number of roles that he has served for the commission. Most recently, I've gotten to know Josh as our chief of staff over 8 state agencies. And so when I say that he's a puppet master, I genuinely mean that. It was remarkable watching him navigate some of the situations that he did on behalf of the state of Indiana. And you will be so very missed. You know that. Although I texted Josh last night about a question. And he is working with the Fairbanks Foundation, who is an enormous partner of ours. And so even this afternoon, we'll be together at the Fairbanks Foundation for so you just can't get away from us. But I'd now invite anyone else who'd like to share a few words about Josh. He's been here for so long. If you want it to be kind words, if you want it to be a roast word, whatever, I'd open it up.
I'll start. Have known Josh from the beginning. Yeah, so it's been a fun ride working with you in all those different categories. You've done every one of them in an exemplary, professional, thoughtful, careful, and effective manner. So it's just been such a pleasure to work with you in all those different capacities. You've left the state, you've left higher ed in a much, much better place. And even though you were not always out front on all of these things, which we know is not where you want to be necessarily, but know that much of the impact comes back to you. So thank you for everything.
I just reiterate same comments you've made, Dan, that you've done an outstanding job of really leading us through a lot of really dramatic change over your tenure here since 2014, all for the better. And it's been exciting to watch that in your leadership and keeping the commission informed of what's taking place, engaging us when we needed to be involved, and getting us to become active and talking to whoever we needed to talk to was greatly appreciated. But I think my fondest memory is the year that the St. Louis hockey team won the cup, and I think that's when you were at your height.
2019, yeah. It's a good night in the commission meeting, yeah.
But thank you, Josh. Appreciate all your work.
I just want to say thank you also. My short time knowing you, get to I've seen your intellect and your passion and your generous way of guiding and helping to educate those of us who are new to the Christian. And I really appreciate it. And I know where you're going, that expertise and knowledge is going to be taken with you. You'll be missed here, but I know you'll be making a big impact there.
Thanks, Josh. Known you for a long time. You've always been extremely helpful to me in trying to understand some of the more complex things here at the commission and higher ed in general. But you've always been just such a nice person and easy to get a hold of, and always right back to me when I've needed things over the years. So appreciate that and appreciate your time here and all you've done for the state of Indiana. And hope to see you in the new world you're in at some point.
So Josh, I know that many of the staff members, many of our government reps have probably better roasting stories than all of us. We won't do that to you right now, but just you don't know how much you've meant to all of us, and we'll continue together working forward, just in different roles, but just so appreciate you. So thank you. Think of some way to get you back in July. Mark that on your calendar, Josh. All right, the next one. Oh, I think, you know what, Allison, I'm clicking it and you're clicking it. I'll stop clicking it.
Well, no, you can keep doing it now. We know it's working.
Oh, I was like, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your assistance. So the next congratulations that we would like to share is our very own commission member, Dennis Bland, was awarded, I should say Dr. Dennis Bland, was awarded an honorary doctorate of education from Vincennes University for his commitment to youth advocacy and leadership development, dedicating his life to elevating opportunity, inspiring high achievement among urban youth, and mentoring them to become future professional, business, and community leaders. extraordinary legacy that I think all of us in the room, Dennis, admire when you're here and also admire from afar. With 86% of the Center for Leadership Development alumni either attending college or currently enrolled, that is remarkable return on investment, remarkable impact. Dennis, we're going to do something similar. If any other commission members would like to say any words about Dennis, look at my mic is like smiling and nodding, he's ready. And then Dennis will ask you if you would like to say a few words.
Well, Dennis is a remarkable person, and I tell you, I've never seen anybody that can then capture the essence of a particular point and bring it to bear. It's like the old E.F. Hutton.
Yeah.
When they talk, you listen, and there's nobody that brings more wisdom and really unique perspective that many people would not never have seen. Oftentimes I've never seen, but you bring it to light, and it's always right on the mark. So, Dennis, I've got such high regards and respect for you and what you've achieved, and the impact that you've had is truly remarkable. So, congratulations, well deserved.
Well, I'm a Dennis Bland groupie. He is my idol in so many ways. So it's been the joy of my life to get to know him over these number of years being on the commission. And like Mike said, I mean, it's remarkable. You don't make offhanded remarks, you make thoughtful, substantive, targeted remarks that they're just always additive in such a good way. I will tell you that, I'm embarrassed by this, but I happened to talk to Chuck Johnson about a week ago, and he said that Dennis, aside from getting an honorary doctorate, he was the commencement speaker. And Chuck said, by far, it was the best commencement speech he'd ever heard in his life, which doesn't surprise anyone. So thank you for all you do.
Dennis, just to add on, you've probably been one of the most influential people to me on this commission since I've been here. Just your insight, the way you get very directly to the issues that we're talking about, your questions that you ask have helped me immensely personally, and I'm sure everyone else here. So I appreciate that. Congratulations on this. Please make sure that you still have the DePauw University degree above the Vincennes, which is sorry, that's selfish of me to say.
This is Larry. Dennis, I'd like to congratulate you on your award and also commend you on your leadership for the Center for Leadership Development. You've dedicated your life to helping people, and you've been especially patient in explaining to me some of the things that you've gotten into and deepened my understanding of the issues that you faced through the years. So thank you very much. You certainly deserve this.
Molly, did you want to add?
It seems redundant, and I thought the same thing with Samantha, trying to be poignant in what I say, talking to you, the two of you who have been so incredible in your eloquence on this committee. It's a little intimidating, but I would love to see a transcript of that speech, because I also heard that it was incredibly impactful and not a dry eye in the room kind of moment. That I would love to hear it or read it.
I bet there's a video around we can get. We'll probably-
Bible on YouTube.
Dennis, you have the floor. Dr. Bland, you have the floor.
This is totally surprising. I need to give kind words. And I guess in a moment like this, I will just bare my soul. As I shared at the commencement address, and I received that profound honor and honor of my parents who were shared honors. So it was astounding to me to learn as a 42, 43-year-old met my father when he came to Indianapolis. He was the first one in his legacy of family that ever owned his own property. And he lived on the plantation. And that by the time I was in third grade, fourth grade, I had more education than my mother and father combined. So even being asked to serve in a commission is an honor for my family. Education just means something different. And so I tried to honor my father, and I tried to honor my mother, whom I lost when I was 5. My father was raising 8 children. I was the youngest. And then he essentially had a 3-point message to my kindergarten teacher when I started school about 6 months after my mother passed. And the message was essentially, number 1, he'll be at school every day, ready to learn. Number 2, he'll never present to you a problem when he gets there. And number 3, if he ever presents one problem, he'll never be around to present a second. So I honor my father. And so, thank you all. Your recognition is an honor. For me, it's a great honor for my father and family. So thank you so very much.
Draw in the place. So thank you, Dennis, for sharing a few words. So at this time, I would love to share an update with the commission, the state. Brooke Kyle is going to provide this update for us. The 2024 college going rate, absolutely, and the 2025 completion rate update. So Brooke.
Wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Jenner, and thank you, members of the commission. So this will be a pretty brief presentation, but also very exciting. We are thrilled to share with the commission that for the first time since 2014, the Indiana college going rate increased. And it went from 51.7 for the 2023 cohort to 52.2 for the 2024 cohort. This has been a key performance indicator for the commission for a long time, and we're moving towards considering this more of a leading indicator for our ultimate goal of completion, which I'll talk about in a second. But the staff is thrilled about this improvement. We've been waiting for Indiana to turn the corner, and we're all just really, really excited to see this and are looking forward to how this helps shape our further goals for completion and attainment. And so I wanted to remind you as well on the slide up here, we shared this in January. Another huge success for Indiana. Indiana celebrated for the first time its on-time completion rate surpassed 50%. And so we are laser focused on keeping this momentum going, making sure that our students have pathways to complete their credentials, but also on time is really what we're focusing on. And then we're also really excited to share today for our external stakeholders. We have 3 new dashboards and data sets available, helping to ensure that we are transparent with student outcomes, as well as transparent for all of our institutions to see where they are in benchmark. So we have the college going dashboard and data set that's been updated for the 2024 cohort. Our completion dashboard is actually brand new. We're launching it today, and that's also available on the website, and that will include our 2025 completers. And so there is a QR code and a scan if you would like to do that for any reason. And I will take questions if there are any. Yes.
Is there any anecdotal or otherwise evidence of why the college going rate has gone up starting next one?
Great question. We've looked at this and have also kind of conversed with some other partners, and they aptly said, what you're doing is working. Our FAFSA initiative is working. Our pre-admissions, our resident admissions is working. But we also know that it's not enough just to get the students enrolled. We need to make sure that they complete. So again, we're really happy with this metric, but definitely recognize it's leading.
And I would also add to that, Brooke, our higher ed institutions have been working incredibly hard to ensure people are aware of the value proposition that they provide. We know that there's a national spin to this, and we can only control what we can, which is our own message. And so I'm a huge shout out to them, as well as, again, trying to connect K-12, higher ed, better paths for our students. Any other questions or thoughts for Brooke? Yeah, I was gonna say, we whispered back and
Yeah, I
forth.
mean,
Go ahead.
right, so, I mean, they're both wonderful friends. I think that completion rate, significant number going over 50% is just like super helpful and a leading indicator, as you say, and I think we're gonna continue to see more progress on that. So I hope that gets picked up far and wide across the state of Indiana and beyond. That's a big jump. It's a big deal. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and that concludes my report, so back to you.
Wonderful. Lots of good stuff and thank you thank you. Sorry. Lots of good things. Thank you again and congratulations to Samantha, John, and to Dennis. So let's see here. It's now we move on to new business items here. We will first go to our Budget and Productivity Committee for approval of capital projects. And before we do the vote, I'll turn it over to Chairman Mike Allen.
Thank you very much, Chairman Dan. We met on April 30th and we've reviewed 2 capital projects. We also began the process of looking at budget instructions for 2027 through 29, which is amazing that we're beginning that process, but indeed we are. So we'll be doing more in terms of communicating out to institutions and moving forward with that. And Cody is very well handling that and moving that thing forward. Again, we have 2 capital projects. The first is Ball State University, and Becca, you want to share your thoughts with this project?
Good morning. I'm Becca Rice. Oh, I even forget my name. And I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice President for Governmental Relations and Industry Engagement for Ball State University. We are pleased to come before you with this project. It gives me yet another opportunity to tell you about that exciting nearly $200 million investment in our university adjacent commercial district. It's something that not only Ball State, but our entire community and region is really excited about. The Village Green and the Martin Street improvements, which we're talking about today, are really a focal point and a gathering point in the village. It's a little different than some of these capital projects because there won't actually be a lot of the built, the built environment is different. It's the landscaping, the streetscape, and all of those important things that even the existing businesses are really excited about because we want to create that vibrancy in the commercial district. If you look to the west, you'll see down the road is the Performing Arts Center and the hotel. There'll be the apartments, the market rate apartments in a Barnes and Noble. To the south, you'll see 25 owner-occupied houses. And then when you look to the north, really exciting, this summer we'll open our Center for Innovation and Collaboration, which really is how our university is thinking about being a catalyst to community, the region, and industry around the area. And then, of course, the gateway to our beautiful campus. So we want people engaging deeply with our institution, whether they're students, employees, or the others. So these improvements are going to be transformational. It's $5.4 million. The majority of that, $4.1 million, will be gift funds, and the remainder will be operating reserves. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Becca. Cody, would you like to share the staff's perspective?
Yes, so staff is recommending this project for approval. A couple things that I think stood out to us. One, really excited for the opportunity to take a moment and celebrate the role that our institutions play in local and regional economic development. I don't think we always get to talk about that as much as we know the role that they play. And this is one of those projects that really emphasizes that. Also exciting to see a project where a majority of that funding that's being leveraged is those private funds. So we're of course excited to see the institutions working in partnership with various entities to make that happen. So yes, staff does recommend for approval.
Great, thank you, Cody. And the Budget Productivity Committee members also recommend, so based upon their recommendation, I'd make the motion for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Or Becca, Cody, or anyone else? Great project, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Same. Okay,
Great. And then a second project is an expedited approval project for Purdue University. And Kendra, do you like to say something about that? Why don't you talk?
Yeah, I can.
Tell us a little bit more about it.
Morning, everyone. Kendra Leatherman, Director of Relations for Purdue University. The Purdue project on your review for approval today is 420/422 Michigan Avenue and 510 Indiana Avenue. We're going to purchase these from Oz Business Property Group. The property was built in the mid-1800s. It includes 2 parcels on 0.24 acres in downtown Indianapolis. The structure's been renovated a few times, and they're in the same block as our current university-owned student center and 401 West Michigan Street property in downtown. As many of you know, Purdue in Indianapolis is our #1 institutional priority for this year. And as you can see from the map attached to the documents, these parcels are of strategic importance to Purdue in Indianapolis. The total cost of the project is $4 million. It's going to be fully funded by operating reserves.
Yeah, so staff also recommends approval for this project. I think what I'll call out here is when I personally have had the chance to talk with Purdue students here in Indianapolis, they're really excited about having a home here and sort of seeing that develop. And so we know that this is aligned to Purdue's plan for here in Indianapolis. So like I said, we recommend approval for this project.
Thank you, Cody. And likewise, the Budget Productivity Committee members were supportive. So based upon their recommendation, I'd make a motion for approval.
So moved.
thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns? Another great project. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Same. All right.
Hey, don't interesting about the budget process, or just, you don't have to, but
More to come.
more to come. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the Budget Productivity Committee report.
Great, thank you, Mike. Next up, we want to turn to our academic degree programs, and I will look to Dennis Bland, who's our chair of our Academic Affairs and Quality Committee, to provide the report out.
Thank you, Chairman Peterson. For the Academic Affairs and Quality Committee met on February 27th, and we had an opportunity under the leadership of Dr. Butler and team to then consider 4 programs, and so then we're now submitted them for expedited action seeking approval. And the program from Indiana State University Certificate in Band Instrument Repair, which is really insightful once you get a chance to read the hear the presentations. Then Purdue University Global BS in Applied Engineering Technologies, 100% online. Indiana University in Indianapolis, a MS in Leadership and Organizational Systems, 100% online. And then Purdue University Global Professional Sales and Marketing Certificate, 100% online. So we're asking for approval.
Sorry. I'll look to Dr. Butler for any comments you'd like to add. Thank you.
Chairman Bland. I do want to note a typo that would be completely my fault, is that the Indiana University Indianapolis MS is both online and hybrid and it's synchronous, which is a really unique aspect to it. So I apologize for that typo. Starting from the top where Chairman Bland started, the certificate in band instrument repair, it would be extremely distinct. There are only 3 post-secondary institutions across the country that offer band instrument certificates for degrees. There are community colleges in Iowa, Minnesota, Washington State, and this would also be the first one to pair with a school of music. Where they believe it'll have a huge impact is their teacher education, their music teacher undergrads. It's completely embedded in their undergraduate degree. And then with their alumni network and just band directors, music teachers, orchestra directors across the state, they can complete this over 2 summers. And one of the major constraints with music arts programs across our state is costly repair and maintenance of instruments. And they see this as a huge money saver for our area schools, both public and private. The BS in Applied Engineering Technology for Purdue University Global will have 4 concentrations. And it's the evolution of a lot of their programming. Today, there'll be a civil engineering, an industrial engineering, and 2 electrical engineering. One of which I'll note is in semiconductor manufacturing. And that ends with a sort of capstone visit at the Burton Technology Center in Purdue West Lafayette, where they have the clean rooms and the microchip production facilities that are state of the art. The IU Indianapolis Masters that I just spoke of is filling the gap that IU Indy has had since the strategic separation of IUPUI. So this will buttress their MBA and their MBA by having an organizational leadership degree. It also is very modular and allows students to use graduate certificates to fill in their electives. And they created 2 specifically for this, one in human resources and the other in professional project management. And they prepare the student for preparation and eligibility to sit for the professional exams. And then the final one, Purdue University Global, is a certificate in professional sales and marketing. This was done in partnership and at the request of the U.S. Army's Recruiting and Retention College. Once their recruiters have gone through their initial training, they then need to do professional development and earn promotion points. And they can do this through this certificate. It's completely stacked into 3 degrees at Purdue, such as business administration, Purdue Global's communication and that. And then it will also be a standalone certificate for the public. And students who are undergrads now can earn this as an embedded milestone stack in the certificate. They're saying how this goes, but they're thinking there'll be opportunities for other embedded stackable certs that will cater to the military and say logistics and other areas. So those 2 certificates really stood out as being very unique and serving demonstrable industry societal needs. So
Great. Good color number, very really helpful. Those were all, very interesting and I think very creative and innovative in ways. So that's great. These are both for expedited action, so we'll take them together as an improvement. Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any comments or questions for Dennis or Dr. Butler? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, great. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. That completes the portion where we have to vote on things. So now we will do some report outs. So I'm looking at Cody first. So Cody Robinson, Deputy Chief Financial Officer, is going to give us an update on OBPF, or the Outcomes-Based Performance Funding Program.
1 second.
No worries. While we're setting that up, Matt, this program for the instrument repair, I just had a flashback memory of all the times I was in high school handing my trumpet over to our band director, John Sutton, just looking terrified. I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. I think I broke it. So, very important work. Absolutely. So good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the outcomes-based performance funding formula. I'm going to refer to that oftentimes as OBPF. It's a little bit less syllables to come out of the mouth there. Today, this is not a voting item. Instead, what we'll be doing is sort of laying the foundation for further conversations that we'll be having about OBPF in the coming months. And so today, what our plan is to do is really, I think, establish our why. Why does the commission care about having a mechanism like this? We're going to touch on some of the recent history and context, including some of the feedback that we've been receiving about the current formula. And then we're going to propose at a very high level some of the direction or some of the ways that we think we could address that feedback. And that's going to open up for us a public comment period where we'll be inviting feedback from all of our stakeholders. And we'll touch on that here at the very end. So first and foremost, thinking about our why, and we'll start by grounding ourselves in Indiana code. And the statutory requirements for the OBPF can be found here at 21-18-16, and there are 4 key requirements that are described here. The first is that OBPF should be connected to our long-range plan and the overall priorities of the commission. Each even-numbered year, the commission will approve the OBPF formula, which we will then take subsequently to the state budget committee and present to them as well. For Ivy Tech, they have specific requirements that their formula consider things such as employer needs, positive wage outcomes, and stackable credentials, really recognizing that like workforce engine role that they play in our state. And lastly, the data that's used for OBPF is required to be externally audited every 2 years or so. I also wanted to take this moment to kind of give us a little bit of a picture of how this fits within the national context. And first and foremost, I would say that whenever we're talking about performance funding, there's really 2 conversations that happen in higher ed that are coming into one room. The first is what we think about in terms of funding mechanisms or how states fund or support financially their public institutions. So that's kind of one half of the conversation. And the other is this concept of accountability. Performance funding formulas are often considered a key mechanism of accountability that states have with their higher education institutions. And so as we think about this conversation, we keep in mind that both of these things are kind of coming together and interacting, and we're holding both of them as we have this discussion. I would also note that right now, the way that performance funding is done on a national level, there's a lot of variety. And I would say it's very much still an open conversation and has been for the last 4 to 5 decades. What you'll find if you look across the states, not everybody does this the same, and not everybody even has performance mechanisms within their funding. So only about half the states do. And out of those that do, there's a lot of different ways this looks. There's different data that's used to calculate. There's different ways whether or not this is, primary funding or secondary funding. Most states that do use performance funding typically allocate about 10% of their total, 10% or less of their total appropriations to a performance mechanism. There's a group of states that do go beyond that allocate around 50 to 70% of their total funding to this mechanism. Indiana has historically fallen in that first group that is looking more around 10% or less. We'll talk about that here in a second as well. Lastly, I want to tie this back to our priorities and speak to why the commission itself cares about something like this. And namely, I would summarize that by saying that having something like an outcomes-based performance funding formula and mechanism allows us to communicate our priorities across the state and with our institutions, and then also allows us then to recognize and celebrate when our institutions are aligned and succeeding in those areas. So for example, as we look at our 4 A's, which we've been talking about a lot recently, we can think about how we can use a performance funding mechanism to incentivize our priorities and then reward institutions who are winning in those areas, right? So things like rewarding practices that create return on investment for students, encouraging the removal of barriers both to entry and completion of credentials at our institutions, holding ourselves and the institutions accountable for making sure that we're delivering high quality education and those work-based experiences that set students up for success, and making sure that we are celebrating the role that higher education plays in getting and helping students find those in-demand roles. So these are all things that we kind of see as like the North Star as we have this conversation about what is the funding formula and why should we care about it. So let me transition a little bit to some of the history and the context about OBPF. And I think this will be important as we then sort of shift into thinking about some of the feedback that we've been receiving related to this, and where we want to go from here. So historically speaking, over the last 2 biennia, we've been using a new formula, what I'll refer to as the current formula. Prior to that, the formula held about 5 to 9% of the total appropriations value to our institutions. So out of a chunk, it held less than 10% of the total money going to our institutions from the state. And in the new formula in 2023, we designed a new formula that was designed a little differently. So in the 2023 biennium, which would have covered fiscal years 24 and 25, so looking back, this is kind of how the funding broke out for our institutions across all the different ways that the state funds them. And as you can see, the big block there is that base operating block that you'll find in the budget bill. And at the very top, you can see performance funding was about 1%. So in the current formula, I'll talk about this here a little bit more in a second. But we shrink down that portion of that funding that was coming from performance. And namely, the rationale for that was that performance funding became base building. So institutions, through the performance funding formula, had an opportunity to take what they earned in 1 year and actually add that to their base appropriation. So there's this compounding nature to how the formula works. Now, in the current formula, the current biennium, the formula is the same, but due to kind of the economic situation we found ourselves in 2025, the formula was not funded. And so in a lot of ways, as we go into this next biennium and this next budget bill, we're sort of starting from zero, you could say.
If I may, we are having active conversations with General Assembly leadership about this. Of course, the commission will make the recommendation, but as a reminder, the General Assembly will make the approval and the final call. So again, as Cody walks through this, I think it's essential that everyone really thinks through how this could look in the future, because there is strong interest from leadership to making some adjustments and again, hopefully getting that funded. And again, the feedback opportunity will be key, and we will be giving that feedback also to them for review. Thanks, Cody.
Absolutely. So a little bit more about the current formula. So this formula has been in place since 2023, so it's still relatively new. The way it works, to put it simply, is that the General Assembly will appropriate a certain dollar amount for each institution and each campus. And then those campuses can work to earn a portion of that funding based off of how well they work towards growth metrics that are set by the commission across a number of different metrics. Those growth goals are set using historical trend data, so that's set uniformly across the institutions. And each institution has about 6 to 8 different metrics that they are rated on, totaling up to about 13 metrics in total. So you can see those here on the left. We have 2 related to special group enrollment, low income youth enrollment, and adult enrollment. We also have on time completion, which we just spoke about in Brooke's presentation earlier. We also look at overall completion, and for Ivy Tech, we break that out into 4 different degree and certificate levels and certification levels. We also look at specific group completion, so looking at low income students, adult students, and those students earning STEM degrees. We've also looked at graduate retention. That's the rate at which students then stay within our state after graduating. And for our research universities, West Lafayette, Bloomington, and now IU Indianapolis, we look at the research investment that they're making at their campuses as well. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on, especially as we think about the current formula, is there was a lot of work that went into developing the formula as it currently stands today. There was a lot of work done from the legislature, a lot of work that the commission did. One of the unifying themes that came out of that was this idea or this suggestion that the commission find a formula that can recognize the different missions and the different roles each of our campuses play in the state of Indiana. And so there's a couple ways we did that. One is by this concept of different institutions are rated on different metrics. So obviously not all institutions are graded by their research investment. That's not the roles that some of our institutions or all of our institutions play here in the state. And another way we did that was through a weighting system. So institutions and the commission worked together to determine how much each metric was weighted. And by that, what I mean is how much each metric would allow them to earn from their overall pot. So for example, one institution could earn potentially 15% of their money from meeting their STEM completion goal, while another institution might earn only 5% of their overall pot. And so because of that, in some ways you could almost say that not everyone, but nearly everyone had a very unique formula that then they would work towards and earn each year. Now, like I said, we did not fund, or OBPF was not funded by the General Assembly for this biennium, but we are still tracking that data, and there'll be more information about that in future meetings where we'll share more about the outcomes of that. So with the formula not funded, I think this gave us a great opportunity to take a step back and to take some of the feedback we've been receiving and to really reflect on it and think, when we go to propose this formula in the 27-29 biennium, how can we take and continue to elevate it and continue to advance it and incorporate some of this feedback? And as we began that process, I think 3 really clear themes began to emerge from a lot of the conversations that we've been having with members of the General Assembly, with leaders from business and industry, and with our higher education partners as well. And the first one is that the formula as it currently stands was not moving the needle. And that's important to us because when we, if we're gonna take a priority, if we're gonna take time to really push an initiative, we wanna make sure that it's having impact for students. So it's important to us that the formula is effective in that way. The second thing that I think came out of this was that the formula was not focused enough on outcomes. While a number of the metrics are completion-based, there are some of those metrics that were enrollment-based, and depending on the institution or the campus, those may have held a higher weight than I think a lot of stakeholders were interested in seeing. And so one of that kind of came out, we saw this overall theme of wanting to go back to a full focus, laser focus on outcomes for the outcomes-based performance funding formula. And the last thing I'll say here is the other theme that kind of came out was that the formula had grown to be quite complex and difficult to understand. And that's important to us because, like I said earlier, this is an opportunity for us to communicate our priorities and celebrate the work that our institutions are doing. And that is difficult to achieve if the way we're doing that is difficult to understand or has a lot of complexity when we try to communicate about it. So we miss out on that opportunity. And this is part of how we tell the story of higher ed in Indiana. And so we need something that can help us do that. So given that feedback, we today are going to present some high-level directions that we're considering for OBPF. And we're interested in inviting all of our stakeholders to provide us feedback on that and their thoughts on these directions. So the first direction or I think desire for us that we want to talk about is a return to the focus on earned credentials. And this would mean that funding being tied to those credentials that students are earning at our institutions. We think that doing so can help address some of that feedback around being focused on outcomes and can also help us address some of that complexity that we've been receiving feedback about by taking a number of different metrics and bringing those down to a much smaller number of metrics that would be easier to communicate about. That being said, there's some things that we absolutely still want to continue to figure out how we implement into the formula. The first one being that we want to make sure that the formula is still effective at communicating and emphasizing our priorities and incentivizing our institutions to partner with us on those. And so we're interested in hearing feedback on how we might be able to do that with a more simplified formula. And lastly, I think one of the things that was important to us, and also I think part of a lot of the feedback we received that wasn't necessarily critical, was that in the current formula, the way this kind of works is the focus is on those campus levels. So the formula is designed, it's calculated, and it's appropriated for each campus individually. And by doing so, that allows and sets up the foundation for us to incorporate those elements of mission differentiation that were so important as we did all this work and studying on the formula. And so that's something that we want to continue going forward, is making sure that it's set up to look at each campus uniquely and individually, so we can recognize those different roles that they each play in our state. So for my commission members, what will this look like? Again, today we're not voting on anything. We don't have a formula to present to you today. Rather, instead, we're just sort of presenting these high-level ideas to elicit that public feedback. Later on at a future meeting, we'll come back with data related to the outcomes for the current formula and our proposals for the upgraded or the 27-29 formula for the upcoming biennium. At that meeting, we'll take a vote to approve that formula. And then later on down the line in the winter, when we come back to present the commission's recommended budget, you'll see OBPF again, and that's when we'll talk about dollar amounts and the appropriation that we're recommending behind the formula itself. A few things that have always been a big part of this conversation, and maybe one or two things that are a little newer, that we also want to present and sort of, I think, prompt some feedback on from our stakeholders. So first and foremost, as we think about being outcomes-based, I think a really obvious example there is that focus on credentials, but we want to invite folks to share what they think about other outcomes that we could be measuring with the formula. So we invite folks to kind of think about that and provide us their thoughts on that topic as well. We also want to think about the idea of data lag or timely data. So right now, the formula uses data with a 2-year lag to calculate the funding results. So for example, the current fiscal year we're in, fiscal year 26, the funding for this year would have been determined by data from fiscal year 24. So there's a bit of a lag there. That lag allows our institutional partners to have a little bit more certainty a little earlier related to their funding levels before a fiscal year begins. So there's a bit of a balancing act here, but we're interested in folks' thoughts on that balancing act and on the importance of data or the importance of that fiscal certainty. We also want to continue to hear folks' thoughts on this idea of mission differentiation and campus role, and how we can continue to think about how we incorporate that into the formula and make sure that's represented through the formula. And lastly, I think one of the things we talk about a lot, one of the things that's been maybe happening more and more, and I think Indiana as a leader in is going to continue to be a leader in, is this idea of there's so much college happening inside high school walls today. And is there an opportunity within the OBPF formula to recognize that and recognize the really critical role our institutions play in delivering that, making that possible before students even step foot on a campus? Lastly, I'm just going to kind of close by bringing us back to our priorities. I like to open with those. I think it helps set the focus, but I think bringing it back in can also help ground us too. As we think about where we want this to go, I come back to our 4 priorities, our 4 A's, and I consider how the formula helps us and communicates and incentivizes the work that gets us towards those priorities. Affordability, access for students, attainment for our students in alignment to the needs of the state. And so as we invite feedback, I would also encourage all of our stakeholders to also consider where the formula is going and how it helps us achieve these things. And so with that, starting today, there will be a publicly available chat form that any of our stakeholders can access and can provide us their thoughts about the formula. There's a number of prompts in the job form to kind of help you get thinking about certain topics and your thoughts on those. That will be live for a 50-day period. It will close on Friday, July 3rd, right in time for the holiday. Our goal will be to take that and incorporate that into the design of the formula that we'll then bring back to this body later on. And so with that, I thank you and I invite any questions.
Great presentation, Cody. Well done. Questions or comments? Oh, sorry, Mike.
Thank you, Cody. Great presentation and overview of kind of a little historic perspective as well as we're headed in the future. I'm a strong advocate for outcomes-based performance funding. And I was extraordinarily disappointed when we did not fund it at all last year or last biennium and did such a small number in the previous one. And I think, you looked at some of the concerns and criticisms that were cited, and I would say that's predominantly a result of poor execution. And in our inability to connect, to get our legislative branch to understand the importance that we value with outcome-based performance. To me, you say it was not a meaningful number, didn't move the dial. Well, when you're doing 0 and 1%, that's not going to move any dial. There's no doubt about that. As we looked at the metrics, part of the problem, we've been dealing with outcome-based performance funding for over 25 years. I mean, a long time. We've been one of the leaders in the country in this effort. And it's very complicated. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but one of the biggest challenges that we've had is we've lacked consistency in our metrics. And whenever you continually change the metrics, then that does cause confusion, puts the institutions in such a position that they don't know what they need to work toward and what's important. So the key is consistency, establishing those metrics and getting them to work. I strongly agree that we need to be distinctive with each of our, not only institutions, but campuses, because clearly some of our regional campuses are having a, different type of perspective than their main campuses. And that's why there's 13 metrics, when you look at that. It's because in the last iteration of this, we tried to recognize those distinctiveness. It's a challenge to do that. And I totally agree with your 4 A's. I mean, I think that's the underlying, foundation that we need to strive toward. But by the same token, not every institution is going to accomplish those 4 A's in the same fashion. So we're going to have multiple metrics for each institution. And that's why it's really important that we do get feedback from each of the institutions relative to their actual campuses as well. Again, I'm a strong advocate that we need to move closer to 10% than 1%, because it does need to be meaningful. I think as we look back at the success that we've had as a commission, much of it is getting the attention of the institutions to understand our priorities. And outcome-based funding gives us the ability to say, here's what's important to us. And if you put dollars to that, all of a sudden it becomes important to them as well, too. I mean, that's just how dollars work. And it's consistent with in a business environment, and it's consistent in an educational environment. When you fund things that are important, that's where the priorities get placed. So those are just some of my riffs, I suppose I would say about this, and illustrates my passion for sustaining outcomes-based performance funding and helping to educate our elected officials to the importance and the meaning, how meaningful it can actually be, and how it really can move the dial if executed properly. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Good comments. Appreciate it. Other comments? I would just one comment, and it's been said, but I would reiterate, opening this up to input from everyone is critical. Now is the time to give really good substantive feedback so that we can get this right going forward, and then be able to hopefully convince our legislative friends and others to put some money behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just reemphasize what I shared earlier. We are in active conversations with legislative leaders, including caucus leaders, including fiscal leaders. There is strong interest in making sure we have a formula that moves the needle, some of the elements that you just said. But there's a strong interest in also funding it. So the feedback that you just encouraged, one of the legislative leaders said, I sure hope we hear from every university publicly about their thought through the feedback form. They have asked, can we see all of the feedback? So I would really implore our universities to be thoughtful and please do provide feedback based on your quality thoughts. We will also make sure business and industry leaders and partners have this too, to provide feedback, but this will come back, Cody, correct me, to the commission in late July, where the commission will approve the recommendation, which will then be in front of the budget session coming up in January. So that's our timeline ahead. This is the only thing. This is not a required feedback loop. A lot of state government requires feedback loops, but I think that is the commission valuing truly what our people have to say. So jump in, fill out the job. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Cody. Very much. All right, now my pleasure to tee up a discussion and presentation about workforce health, something I'm very passionate about. And looking to Senior Associate Commissioner for Business Solutions for Kyle and Laura Pastore, Associate Chief Talent Development Officer for the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. Before I turn it over to them, I do want to recognize, I believe, unfortunately, our new DWD Commissioner, Kate Shelby, was not able to attend. She was, I think, trying to get here, but I think too many options and too many demands on her time, so she's not here. But as I understand it, our new Chief Workforce Officer, Allison Birdie, is here, so we'd like to recognize and welcome her. Thank you. Glad you're here. So I will turn it over to you two, and apologies, but I'll be right back.
That's fine. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So again, my name is Brooke. This is Laura, my colleague from the Department of Workforce Development. And we actually just got back from Washington, D.C. for a multi-state gathering about this very topic. And we left feeling really good about where Indiana is. Laura actually served on a panel to talk to other states about our data infrastructure on the workforce side. So today, what we're here to do is share sort of an update about what Indiana is doing about Workforce Pell, and what the timeline is going to look like. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the federal Pell Grant, move into the Workforce Pell, look at where the different responsibilities lie, and then where we're looking to engage with our stakeholders. So a quick refresher or reminder, the federal Pell Grant is a federal grant that's been around for a long time. It was part of the Higher Education Act of 1965. And that is designed to give low-income students across the country access to post-secondary education. And it is based on their income that is reported to the FAFSA. Currently, in order to use the Pell Grant, students need to enroll in a program that meets a minimum length requirement and a minimum time requirement. You'll see that on the slide. That's referred to as clock hours and weeks of instruction. So that's where we're at today. As of July 1st, 2026, as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, Congress passed legislation to expand the federal Pell Grant to apply to, in limited circumstances, shorter-term work-based programs. And so the goal of Workforce Pell is to provide low-income students access to very short-term credential training that can lead to direct entry into the workforce, where they can earn good wages, jobs that are aligned with the state workforce needs. And that's where our partners at DWD have come in. Lots of conversation about what does this look like. So one of the unique pieces about the federal workforce Pell regulations is that the implementation was actually delegated to each of the states. So for Workforce Pell, every single state will have a very different implementation plan. But that also gives us a really unique opportunity to align the programs that we designate as eligible for Workforce Pell that truly meet our state needs. We're allowed to look at regional needs, local needs, and we think that we're really set up well to do this. And so the only sort of guidelines that we're required to meet is to ensure that our programs are defined as high skill, high wage, or in demand. And Indiana already has a wonderful framework for this that we've used for other programs, including WIOA, which I don't remember what that stands for, but that's part of our workforce development. And so to keep consistent with our stakeholders, we are going to keep with these broad sectors, which are advanced manufacturing, building and construction, health and life sciences, IT and business services, and then transportation and logistics. And then another key element for the state responsibilities for Workforce Pell is that we're required to engage in employer feedback and employer validation that the programs and training that we identify as eligible for this new federal grant program are actually really in demand from our employers. And employers say, yes, we have pathways for students entering into an entry-level job or being able to fast track into some sort of elevated career pathway. One of the things that we wanted to bring to everyone's attention today is some of the federal requirements, because we get lots of questions from interested stakeholders about who can use this program and what places can offer. So one of the questions we've received frequently is, can high school students use the federal Pell Grant? And unfortunately, the answer is no. The federal Pell Grant requires a student to have a high school diploma already. So this will not be something that students currently in high school will be able to use. And then the other important component that we're reminding people of is, as we look at programs to identify as eligible for the Workforce Pell Program, students still need to qualify based on an income level, based on the FAFSA. So we could have these programs eligible for Workforce Pell, and we'll have a combination of students not receiving federal Pell Grant funds for those, as well as students who are. The other question that we've received from a lot of our stakeholders, and we've been having conversations with our local workforce boards, are where can these training programs take place? And the way that the federal legislation was written is that only Title IV eligible colleges and universities are able to offer a Workforce Pell program. So that means our public, private, and even proprietary colleges and universities, if they are authorized to participate in Title IV. One of the options we do have, and we are exploring as we have conversations, is that our colleges and universities can partner with an outside provider for up to 25% of the program in training and delivery. And so that's something, as we think about and are hearing from other states, an opportunity to get even more employer feedback as new curriculums are developed and designed.
Real quick on this, just to re-emphasize an exclamation point, the red font up there.
Thank you very much.
All that we're discussing today, and Laura and Brooke, so thankful that you all are in DC and can give us kind of the behind the scenes, what we know now. All of this is pending final rulemaking. So none of this is official. This is just to openly share with Indiana. This is what we know today. This is how we're thinking ahead. So just wanted to draw.
No, I meant to call that out earlier. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Commissioner Jenner. Yes, we are still awaiting the final rules, and that will definitely dictate some of the final decisions that we make as a state. This is a very busy slide, and I am not going to read every bullet point to you. But the purpose of this slide is to demonstrate that when Congress passed the rules for federal Workforce Pell, they have very narrow, strict requirements about how long the program can be and about what outcomes students need to meet when they graduate from those programs. And so a couple things I want to highlight. First, right now, with the rules as they stand right now, the programs must be between 8 and 14 weeks. In our conversations with Department of Workforce Development, There are several training programs that are actually shorter than that would not qualify. And so we are waiting the final rules to see what that minimum length is going to be. The other components on here that say successful and in demand, you'll notice the programs have to demonstrate for the last year having a 70% program completion rate and a 70% job placement rate. And as we understand from the federal rules, for institutions that are interested in developing new programs, that is absolutely an option. But in order to qualify for federal workforce Pell, that new program would have to be in existence for 1 year and demonstrate these outcomes related to program completion and job placement before they can go through the state process of applying to be considered a federal workforce Pell program. And then the last piece, these workforce Pell programs have to be tied to sectors and jobs that are high wage and meet a wage threshold. Those wage thresholds don't go into effect for a few years, but we are being very strategic as we look at what industries and sectors and occupations to make sure that if students are going to receive federal grants, that is a good return on the federal dollar and a good return on our state's time to make sure that those programs lead to successful outcomes. And then finally, under the flexible, one of the key components of these programs is that it has to ensure that a student, should they decide at a later point in their life, they want to use the credential that they earned for Workforce Pell to stack into a long-term certificate, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, that there are pathways put in place for them to be able to do that. And so we're working very closely with our partners to articulate and to make sure that those programs will have those pathways designed. So in terms of where we are now from the state's perspective, Laura and I, on behalf of our two agencies, have connected with Ivy Tech Community College and Vincennes University, and those will be our two pilot institutions. Many states are launching this as part of a piloted implementation phase, and the message we are getting from the Federal Secretary of Labor, is that correct, is the focus is quality, not quantity. And so they are advising states to do rollouts that ensure that quality programs are put forth and that students are entering quality programs. So to do this, we're partnering initially in this implementation phase with those two institutions. We have been in conversation with our local workforce boards, and we are starting to now develop sort of a draft policy and application materials. And the timeline that we're focusing on and aiming for is that we would have this draft available for public comment sometime around July 1st, after it has been approved by Governor Braun. And with that I will take any questions. Laura is also here if you have any more workforce specific questions, but happy to answer those.
You might have shared this. When does the federal government anticipate rulemaking will be complete?
We don't know.
Did they give us a?
Did you really just say?
I did. All right.
Public comment concluded on April 8th. So we're anticipating it anytime, but we don't have a definitive timeframe.
And the part of the reason I ask is I know we have to be planning based on what we think will happen. The materials that you mentioned will be up for public comment on July 1st.
On or around is our goal, yes. And that will depend on the final rules being released. Yes.
So if we don't have the final
Correct.
rules, we will not get public comment. Okay. I just
Thank you for
wanted
that
to-
clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. So then the timeline is we'll probably see the final rules in the next couple, 3 months. That's making you nervous. I'll say it, you don't have to approve. And then after we get those, then we will put this out for public comment. Okay, I'm tracking. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Comments? Great presentation. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you very much. And we look forward to sharing updates at a later commission meeting or one of our other Department of Workforce Development meetings. So thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, and finally, last but not least, we have a presentation from our hosts, at the University of Southern Indiana around it's a student success presentation around the partnership with AMCOR. And again, thank you to the whole crew from USI who's here. So welcome.
Hard not to see Sam sitting at the table, but it's also a pleasure to hand her her diploma this weekend. So I need you to know that what you're going to hear today is sort of built into the fabric of USI, and I think it's a really important story. So they're going to tell you the real story. I'm going to tell you how I got started. If you don't know, and I'll be simple on this, we were founded by the business leaders in southwestern Indiana who decided that public higher education was needed in Evansville. So from day one, the type of thing you're going to hear today have been built into our fabric, and they still are today. Critically important to me. Ties into a lot of what you've just seen on the slides. So relationships are also important. So I received a phone call from a student who was working in the summer for AMCOR from Kelly School at IU and said, hey, we really could use some help on our packaging. Some of our things are a little stale and we would like some help. And could USI help us? And I said, absolutely, we will do that. And so proud to say within about a week, we had a proposal turned around to AMCOR that's a little quicker than you see in higher education. Some needed a neck brace. It was kind of a whiplash situation. But understand that that's who we are. We are about applied research predominantly at USI, about finding solutions for business. And so we were able to pull the team together. And the team we have is not the team you might necessarily expect. And that's one of the things that excites me most about it. We have manufacturing, engineering folks. We have marketing folks. We have art and design students helping that. And that's a real example of how some of the liberal arts education is applying to business today. And that's always been our focus. We also have occupational therapy individuals involved in that because as my hair has transitioned from black to gray, things don't open as well as they used to. So having someone who could look at that design is important. And you know what I'm talking about. You go home, you've had a hard day, you pick up a package, you squeeze it, things are all over everything. And or as last times, things are all over and dried. And so it's really important. It's a small thing that we just take for granted every day. But we pulled together this team, and I'm going to let them explain it, but I just want you to know how important it is what we do. And I think this is a great example.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having us today. My name is Stephen Stump, and I'm the director of the Center for Applied Research at USI. And the Center for Applied Research exists to allow external entities access to our labs, equipment, and expertise. I, through my office, hire a team of 12 students that work for me part-time throughout the year, and we conduct roughly 30 projects on an annual basis. Now, a lot of these projects are very limited in scope. A client comes to us with a specific need. They want us to develop a strategic plan, conduct an economic impact study, build a widget of something they've drawn on a napkin. And we're often pretty successful with this, but these projects are conducted usually by a team of 1 to 3 students, often from the same major. It's very gratifying work, but when we initiated talks with AMCOR about the Applied Innovation Partnership, something that excited me personally was this was an opportunity for us to bring together an interdisciplinary team of 7 students representing all 4 colleges as well as the School of Graduate Studies to have a more broad, open-ended scope, which was intentional to give us some more room for creativity and ideation. But also, while I was working with the students along with 4 faculty mentors teaching them the academic concepts they would need to know, we got to work lockstep with our partners from the AMCOR team in order to walk them through the specific process that AMCOR uses internally for their product development and also have them mentoring our students on the real-world practical application of the concepts that we were teaching them. So it was exciting, it was educational, and dare I say, successful. So with that, what we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through kind of the background of how everything got started. We're going to go through the project phases, not talking about the product itself, but the steps we went through and the lessons learned from that, and then share with you some of the outcomes and impact that we experienced. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hobson from Amcor. I'm a product manager, and myself and my husband both graduated from USI, and we both stayed in the Evansville area to work at Legacy Berry, which is now Amcor. So this project has been pretty dear to my heart, just seeing the students get this opportunity to work with Amcor and this real life experience. So as Steve mentioned, Emma was a Kelly School student. She was on her second summer internship last year. And the first summer she was deeply involved in, normal business tasks each day. And I knew she could do the learnable skills, but I wanted to spend last summer with her developing her soft skills and networking within the organization so that she could understand, the bigger lens. And so during her first week at Amcor, we have a very big internship program during the summer. And so I kick off at the end, they do a big presentation. So, I said, okay, Emma, we gotta figure out what your project, if you have some ideas of things I actually need help on. But there's one project I have on the list that could be a challenge. And a gap that we have at Amcor is that some of the subject matter experts are beginning to retire or looking to fill their bench, with talent. And so sometimes that can be a gap. So how can we take that really complex problem and solve it, here, catalyst to drive change with Amcor. So I said, we need to partner with our universities here in Southern Indiana a little bit more than we are today, from the Legacy Berry side and now Amcor. And I just don't have enough time to take on the program, to develop this program and figure out how we can fill our pipeline with new, fresh innovation ideas and build this partnership program. So I said, so you have all of these normal things you did last summer, or how can we use your soft skills? How can we help you network and get to know others, and to help me with this project? And without winking, I was just like, oh, I'll do that, the project. I'm like, are you sure? Because you're starting from scratch. Like I have nothing to really offer except for I'm going to introduce you to everybody that sits on this floor and we'll see what we can come up with. And she took on that challenge and I'm really proud of her for doing that. So what the outcomes that we laid out were, we wanted to fill the pipeline with new talent opportunities. We wanted to ensure the students got real life experience at Amcor. Southern Indiana is very large in manufacturing and in plastic manufacturing. So how could, USI currently doesn't have a program for packaging specifically. So how can we bridge that gap? So that was one of the objectives. So the program is intended to create internship opportunities, help Amcor with talent, and drive innovation. And address any kind of workforce shortages that we might be seeing, like I already mentioned, with some retirements, and also it's just harder to find manufacturing talent. Did you want to add anything? So the idea was we will teach or, work with USI to teach the students our stage gate process and help them get some experience with that. And so, yeah, we created a steering committee internally to help drive the program. And Cindy is over innovation. So I'll let her walk you through the process the students followed. But thanks for having us here today.
Thank you. So mine went the wrong way, sorry. My name is Cindy Anslinger. So I am over our portfolio project management for our global R&D site. Now that we are Amcor. And when I was working with Emma, I was just over the North America division. And this is the stage gate process that we followed within our North America division for any type of innovation or new idea process or work that we wanted to kind of take on to revamp any of our work. So when I got to talk with Emma, we started talking about how do we do this and what do we want to do? And I said, well, let's do real life. Let's use our process. Let's get them into as if they were a new employee, as if we were teaching them, as if we were going through it. However, our process is very long. You can see 8 stages and very in depth. We get into a lot of, testing on the line and different things like that that would be too much for where we wanted to go. So we took the basis of our process and said, okay, we're going to get them through the beginning of it, where they're still working our process. They're still gathering the information the exact same way any of us would, as if we were working in a real life environment, so that they're getting that experience as if they were in our facility working with us and having the standard meetings and involvement like we would, but on a smaller scale, and getting to apply with the education along with it. So teaching them what stage gate means, teaching them what ideation means, teaching them how we work through our process as we go through this, and then letting them apply it in real life. So I'll let them talk. The students are going to now kind of give you guys an overview of how they walked through this part of the process.
Hi guys, good morning. My name is Lauren Anderson and I just recently graduated from USI on Saturday with my marketing degree. So like Cindy stated, when I first came to Encore with the internship, I didn't know a thing. And so I just want to clarify that, and I want that to be known throughout this presentation. We didn't know anything. And so from the marketing side, this was like at the beginning of January, kind of mid-January. From the marketing side, we started to gather some research about some things that consumers are wanting in this specific market. So I'm not going to walk you guys through everything that we found in the market research, but I just wanted to clarify that even though I just graduated with my marketing degree, I had done some things in the research background, and I had done presentations, but I had never done anything to this caliber. I had never presented, any actual research. That is something that is going to end up on the market at some point. And so through this process, I was able to actually, use this information, present it to management or, our mentors, and they were able to take this information, make sure that it was reliable, and then, at some point it would go to market.
My name is Jadison Robinson. I am the graduate student at occupational therapy. I am a part of my first ever doctorate program for occupational therapy. So I have been a part of a lot of firsts this year. And so USI has really opened doors for me, not only with this project, but just in general with different community partnerships. So I was very excited and proud to be a part of this new partnership too. So when we started looking and doing the research, like Lauren stated, we noticed that people wanted more inclusive design. So that's kind of where my role fell in. When I walked into this project, I had no idea why they were having me as an occupational therapy student walk in, because I don't design things. I don't present things to other people. I sit there and I help find a solution to help people manage everyday life. So with our goals, I was able to help bring a completely different scope and spectrum of ideas, because like I said, we help create and think through processes to help people grow and become more independent. So doing this helped, and doing this in the thought process of having me there was no need for, in the end of my job, hopefully have everything be inclusive, easy to work with for people of all ages, all abilities, all cognitive abilities. So both physical and mental attributes were thought through when we did this process.
So much like with Jadison, members of the team were sometimes questioning, well, what's my part? What's my role? What am I going to do? As we were looking at some of the things that needed to be accomplished with the product itself and some of the features that we wanted, that's when two members of our team, William Lee, who is a senior art major who just completed his bachelor's degree, and Ethan Rayerman, a junior studio art design major, they started rubbing their hands and literally sharpening their pencils, because they said, we've got some ideas here. We need some sort of visual representation of what we're talking about so we can all kind of wrap our heads around it. So they took the initiative to start with hand sketching some design concepts of what they thought this thing might look like. And then Ethan said, you know what? how do we leverage AI into this? And so he took his sketches, fed them into AI, which did a few little tweaks and refinements, and also came up with a couple other variations, which were quite unique in some senses. We have some copies of the early sketches, which we weren't able to share with you for confidentiality reasons. But the main idea here is that Ethan looked at this and said, with my skills as an artist to do hand-drawn art, how can I leverage technology to then further enhance that and improve the designs that we have? So we came up with some different concepts that we looked at, and then we had to, of course, bring the Amcor team in for some feedback on that to help us figure out what it looks great on paper, but what can we actually make? That's going to be the challenge.
Morning, thanks for having us. I'm Mark Deutsch. I'm a director of R&D and product development for Amcor. Been with Amcor for 17 years and been in the industry for longer than I care to remember. But it was really good to have this opportunity to work with the students very closely on the different designs. As it was mentioned, there was a lot of work that was put into it in understanding what the market was and what attributes for each one of the closures were important and how those need to be applied for consumer experience. I think if you think back maybe to the OBPF, and you think about that process, it's another example of how this applies because you're reaching out for essentially consumer feedback so you can put together the best solution. And that's exactly what the students did. It was a great opportunity to work with them and mentor them and work them through the process so they could see how this all applies to their real life, whether it is in an engineering position, marketing, occupational therapy, because essentially they learned how to put their differences aside, their opinions aside, figure out how to work together and come up with a design that was functional for everybody in action, and ultimately ended up giving the best consumer experience for the product.
So for part of our consumer research, besides just looking at what people have already done research on, put pen and paper to, we wanted to create our own survey. And so we sent it out to not only people within the USI community of students and teachers, but we put it out for anyone that we personally knew through LinkedIn, Facebook, because we wanted to get as much data as quickly as we possibly could. And our main findings throughout this survey was that especially people in the age group of 55 to 88, that they wanted something that was easy to open and potentially one-handed. And overall, those were both very important things to all consumers or most consumers who took this.
So not only did we put out a survey, but we also had conducted a couple different things. So I and then the other marketing student, her name is Ella Rich. She also goes to USI. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here today, but we were able to conduct a focus group. And so we were able to, give our prototypes to that focus group, see if they were easy to use, see if it was intuitive. And then speaking of intuitive, I get really excited to talk about this stuff. So we were able to use from USI, they have the biometrics glasses. And so you put them on and then you're able to track people's eye movements. And so we were able to actually take those glasses, put them on participants in Amcor's store that they have and see exactly what their eyes were drawn to in the store. And so using that technology, that is something that I had never used before and would not have been able to use before without this project. And so using that technology, we were able to actually see that our design did draw eyes and were intuitive to participants that had never seen that design before. And then, like I said, we utilized that focus group feedback. And so we had just presented our final presentation to Amcor last Wednesday. And so with that focus group feedback, with the information that we got from the store walk that we did with the biometrics glasses, we were able to then take all that feedback and then do some refinements, which once again, in an actual, school setting, you don't get to see from start to finish exactly how the design is implemented, and then also see it on the store shelf and see what consumers think and if it's intuitive to them or not.
So we were able to come together and actually present 2 designs to Amcor because we sadly weren't able to put every single thought that idea that we wanted into one, but we were able to come up with two that both took an overarching most of the features that we wanted to present to Amcor. And our main processes were we wanted it to be easy to use, both opening and once you were using the product that it wouldn't go everywhere. It was more precise. We wanted to make sure it closed securely without leakage within your fridge, because that's another issue that through different research we had found. And then we also wanted to make sure that for Amcor, it was economical, because we don't want to present an idea that's just going to make them lose money and never gain anything out of it.
Okay, so moving on to the outcomes and the impact. So from the USI side, I know that we had a lot of impact from this project. Like we had already stated, I really have only ever worked within the business school. I had never been able to work with an occupational therapist or, with the engineers. And so being able to see exactly how an engineer may think or, how they may do things, I would have never gotten that until I got into a real world job experience. And so through this project, I was able to work with people who have already been in the field for years, and then people who, have just now started doing what they're doing through, say, engineering, graphic design, occupational therapy. And so that was absolutely beneficial to me, especially as, a second semester senior.
As you say, in my field, we have a lot of big terms that we use. And so this was definitely a good experience, like Lauren said, to learn how other people think, but also give me experience in the real world to take these big terms and big thought process that we learn in graduate school and be able to explain it to people who don't have that same mindset. Because luckily through USI, we have a lot of interprofessional development within just the health professions college, but those people have a general similar mindset compared to what I have learned. So they know what I'm saying and how I'm going to say it, but being able to explain what I'm thinking and my thought process to people who have a completely different learning pattern, completely different mindset, and also being able to manage different team aspects among not very many, but conflict, resolution, just all of those, being able to learn how to handle that will also further me in my career and be able to help me with both family members of clients and within other healthcare professional interactions.
Oh, sorry, guys. Stand by if you don't mind. This may just be keep going or okay, here we go. Yeah, it's just his head.
Yeah, so I was really proud of the student group. Their final presentation was to our leadership team at Amcor, and they did a phenomenal job presenting, and just the confidence in building those soft skills like they mentioned of being able to collaborate, respect each other, and to come up with new ideas was really great to see. We were planning to move this was the pilot program, so we're hoping to move it forward with USI and create this partnership so that we can help springboard internships turning into permanent roles within Amcor, making sure that students at USI have access to Amcor and opportunities that will be available to them post-grad. And just understanding the new technologies within manufacturing, automation, and then sustainability, which is really important for us. So this was a really successful program, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future.
And I think from the university side, I would concur, we did feel that it was very successful. It gave great experience to the students. Now, I am a double graduate of USI, as is my wife. I have my bachelor's in communications and my master's in business administration. I worked at several different for-profit and nonprofit organizations before coming to USI 10 years ago. So I like to tell people I'm not an academic, I'm a business person. However, while that makes me appreciate the partnerships that we get to create externally, and I'm very passionate about that, I also very much appreciate any kind of learning or mentorship opportunity we can give the students. So I'll confess that my catnip is anytime we get interdisciplinary, because I love the concept of getting students in different majors the opportunity to work together. The team building, working through the personalities, all that is extremely valuable for their experience both in and outside of the classroom. And this project provided a perfect opportunity for that. So I think for us, what we saw is that this was a pilot, as Kristen said. We think that we've established a pretty solid framework on how we could continue this moving forward. We've got our own debriefing meeting scheduled here in the next few weeks where we're going to sit down and hash through what do we want to tweak for next time. But all in all, we felt it was very successful. I will take the students' word for it that they got a lot out of it. That's what they all keep telling us. So I think we did a job well done in that respect. And we were just excited about the experience. Look forward to trying to do this again and see what more wonderful opportunities we can give the students, both hard skills, soft skills, everything they need to be successful upon graduation. So at this time, we'd be happy to open it up for any questions that you may have.
Quick comment, wonderful presentation. This is totally not biased because I am a student of mine, but I just wanted to take a minute to brag about President Bridges and USI. It is an amazing institution. I think that this project is exactly what brought me to Evansville. USI is very homegrown, it's very community driven, and the idea of working with community partners like Amcor. I wrote down this, if you've ever been on USI's campus, the Cone is one of the hot spots for students, and that was actually written and drawn up by USI student, by a Harvard student. And so I love to see the integration into the interdisciplinary between the student, the community partners, and the university. And just as a side note, just to brag about USI, that wasn't mentioned, but recently USI also created something called Archie's Pantry. And when we're talking about food, I wanted to mention this. Our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Mustafa, was working on this. About 23 to 41% of college students experience food insecurity. And so what USI did is it went into understanding what student concerns were. They're needing affordable food, they're needing accessibility to this, and they created a pantry for our students. That was essential during Climate Week. And so any moment I can, I would love to brag about USI, and I just wanted to talk about that wonderful presentation.
Yeah, I wanted to brag on President Bridges as well. You know, I talked about how I wanted Emma to network, so I had set up a mentor that was totally out of the space that I work into, because I wanted her to see the opportunity for the entire business, like I mentioned, and that's how she got connected with Steve, right? So, check, we met an objective of Emma's internship because she sees the power of networking and the internal relationships. But she came to me, and so she's like, I said, I'm in contact with the president of USI. And she was like, I'm like, really? That's great. You know, and she said, and he answered my emails, even though my title says intern, and he set up a call with me. I said, okay, so we're getting somewhere. So I just wanted to say that shows what kind of a person and how he supports students in higher education. So that was really nice of President Bridges to do that with Emma.
That's our fabric. That's who we are. That's how I was taught. Thank you.
I would just like to add that with Lauren's comment, whenever the first meeting that we had, because we're so proud of this group, because the first meeting we had, they all sat around the table, we talked about the project, and they were literally like, what are they talking about? You could see it. You could see it in their faces. I mean, they were like deer in the headlights. So they've come a long way as a group. And to see how they're reaching out to us now as mentors. Before you literally had to ask them questions to try and get anything out of them. See how they've grown as a group. And just as an added note, we have hired one of the members as an intern, a year-round intern out of this program. So.
Good. Other questions, but I would just tell you, this is exactly what we want to do. Again, it's who we are. Finding an opportunity for students to learn is the best thing we can do. I had the opportunity to celebrate Lilly at their 150th this week. These types of things are meaningful for our companies. Bill Norman, who is the Rigid Packaging Solutions for North America president, said to me, I will be telling the company about what we're doing in Evansville, Indiana. Those are the types of things we need in the state, the Lillies, the Amcors to stay. and to build. We want new business too, but don't forget about the businesses we have. And it's so critical. And when we talk outcomes, this is an outcome. So we appreciate it.
Well, President Bridges, you sent me a text a week or two ago and said, I think it was a very simple text. You're gonna love the presentation we had. And I think I was probably driving, so I just hearted it. And since then I've been thinking, I wonder where he got up his sleeve. But hearing from business and industry and our own students, that's the best. And one of you, both, by the way, students, I wrote down, I was so well spoken, and one of you started with, I knew nothing. You said it twice. And then, I don't know if you realized, but by the end of the presentation, you said, I just get really excited about talking about this. So you went from, I knew nothing, to really kind of lighting that fire in you. And I just appreciate President Bridges and also what you're doing and trying to bring real experiences in to assist in building the knowledge and skills. And I also, huge thank you to Amcor for piloting this, learning from this, and now your commitment to make it official and grow it. So I did love the presentation.
Follow that, any other comments other than, I think everybody probably knows else to say, amazing presentation, just on every level. So thank you all. To the students, good luck to you. Actually, I do have a question. What did it kind of inform as far as from your standpoints, what you want to do in the future or don't want to do?
So, okay,
Come up, so, yes, online.
Sorry, normally I'm pretty loud and people want me to stop talking, so, okay. I honestly, at first, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with marketing. I didn't know if I wanted to do digital marketing, if I wanted to do anything else of that nature. I really decided I love consumer research. And I know that like the glasses portion may not be super huge right now, but at some point it's going to be. And there's no doubt about that. Seeing the information that we were able to find just from our small, internship, that is going to be huge in any market at some point. And so being able to see that and, be able to learn how to use that technology before it's huge was absolutely incredible. And so I absolutely found my footing in the consumer research portion. And so without that, I don't know if I would have found consumer research. So that's my opinion on it.
As a healthcare worker, sadly, I don't really see myself working with Amcor much after this, but it has opened new horizons because at USI for our doctorate program, we do at the end of our program do this thing called a capstone. So it has opened my eyes and opened my thoughts of different ways to take consumer research, this internship, and put it into a whole research project to see maybe how more occupational therapists or more healthcare workers can get into these doors, into these places, so we can start from the ground up to influence ideas and innovation to be able to make the world a more accessible and easily used place.
Want to add one more comment?
Sorry, guys.
Anyway. No, I just wanted to explain the reasoning behind some of the push that we had for why we chose and why we asked for the variation in the roles when we're looking at this. So at Amcor, one of the things that we're finding is inclusive designs are not out there, and we don't have a whole lot. And we have customers coming to us, the big ones, the Unilever, the L'Oreals, and those guys saying, do you have an inclusive design for something like this? And we don't. And so that's when we were like, okay, we have to pull in occupational therapy or somebody that thinks that way to kind of spark that for us, along with the technology and the marketing. So we don't have that in our company today, but that doesn't mean we won't in the future. But it's that thought process that we needed. So.
Great comment. Thank you.
And I'm going to disagree because you're not getting away that easy. because that's exactly the type of feedback we need from consumers and from the industry.
I just wanted to make a quick comment that this is exactly what the commission loves to see, this workforce development pipeline, and this is exactly what creates jobs in Indiana and makes people stay in Indiana. So I just wanted to say thank you to Amcor and thank you to USI.
Well, what a great way to end the meeting for every reason that Sam just said, and all of you, just a fantastic presentation. Just reiterates so many important messages. These are always, as you said, the things that I think we get the most out of are really seeing the impact in real life, if you will, for students and universities. And what a great, what a great way to end the meeting and to celebrate Sam having your presentation here. So thank you all very, very much. That brings us right on time to our meeting's conclusion, unless there is any other business for the good of the order. Final words of wisdom? All right, meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a great